I dropped $14,000 on family expenses for my birthday. Their response, no gifts, just help your sister. So, I cut off their power and internet, then told them, we're done. I turned 31 on a Tuesday, not a huge milestone, but it felt significant. For the past 4 years, I'd been covering my parents' utility bills, handling unexpected costs, bailing out my sister Laura when her ex skipped payments, essentially acting as the family's silent ATM. I never complained. I figured we were all just getting by, and I was in a slightly better position. I thought they appreciated it, that it meant something. I invited them over, nothing fancy. I grilled, cleaned the house, and set the table like it was a holiday feast. I even put together a music playlist. I'm not sure what I was hoping for, maybe some kindness, a card, or any sign they remembered it was my day for once. They showed up 30 minutes late, no gifts, not even a bottle of soda. Laura was already stressed, her child acting up. She threw her bags on my couch without a word. Mom gave me a quick, fleeting hug, barely looking at me. Dad went straight to the fridge to check my beer supply. They acted like they were visiting a stranger, as if my birthday didn't exist. I served them prime rib, expensive wine I'd bought myself, and had a cake ready in the kitchen. No one complimented anything. Laura was glued to her phone mid-meal, while her kid smeared food across my table. I tried to keep the conversation light, but I got curt replies and tired sighs. As they were leaving, Mum turned to me as if she'd just remembered something. No gifts this year, she said, but your sister needs help with her kids' presents. Dad chimed in, as if it were a settled matter. You owe it to your family. I just stood there. No one had said happy birthday, not even once. It wasn't the lack of gifts that stung, it was how they said eat as if I should have known. As if it was perfectly normal to skip my birthday so Laura's kid could have something extra, as if I was an afterthought. I told them it was fine, smiled, said I understood, and let them leave, still thinking they were in charge. After they left, I sat in silence for a while. I kept waiting for the tightness in my chest to turn into sadness, but it didn't. It became clarity. I opened my laptop and logged into every account I'd ever set up for them. Their power and gas were disconnected. I cancelled their streaming services, internet, and subscriptions, things they never paid for but always used. Laura's emergency card from me, gone. Then I went downstairs and turned off the heat. It was going to be cold tonight. Good. Let them feel it. I opened our family group chat with my parents, Laura, and me. No emojis, no drama, just one line. I'm taking back everything I gave, and I'm done. I powered off my phone and sat in the dark for a long time. It felt peaceful, not empty, like the calm before a storm. And that's exactly what came next. When I woke up the next morning, I knew what to expect. My phone vibrated like it had urgent news, but I let it die. When I finally charged it and turned it on, there were over 70 unread messages across the family chat and private texts. Laura started it, of course. The messages came in waves, first demanding answers, then calling me dramatic and unstable, then trying to manipulate me with passive-aggressive guilt. You're overreacting. Grow up. This family has done so much for you. You think you're the only one struggling. Mum sent a long, shaky rant. It was all about how families sacrifice for each other and how she couldn't believe I'd betray them like this. She said she was disappointed that word was always their fallback. Never sorry, just disappointed. It felt like my entire purpose was to quietly bear their burdens. Dad didn't bother with full sentences. He just texted grow up with no punctuation. That was his idea of emotional connection. Laura kept texting after I didn't reply. She started asking about the heat. Their house was 63 degrees, and her kid was cold. She asked when I'd turn it back on. She used her son as a shield, as if I was hurting him instead of stepping away from the chaos they pretended was normal. Around 9:30 p.m., someone knocked on my door. I didn't check the peephole. I knew it was Laura. No call, no text. She just stood there as if nothing had happened. She didn't wait for an invitation. She walked past me into the kitchen, grabbed a glass from the cabinet, filled it with water, and leaned against the counter as if she still belonged there. You're really cutting everyone off over no birthday gift, she said. I didn't answer right away. I let the silence linger just long enough to make it awkward. She kept going. Everyone's helping me but you. Even Mum and Dad are trying. You act like I chose this. That's when I calmly asked where she was working now, what company she was with. She wouldn't meet my eyes, mumbling something vague about freelance gigs, part-time work, remote projects. I waited. She finally exhaled and admitted it. She wasn't working anymore, hadn't been for over a year. She'd been fired and never told our parents. She'd been lying, pretending she was still earning big while blowing through every cent. Her cards were maxed out. She said she'd fix it eventually, but in the meantime, she needed everyone else's money to cover the gap. That's when it clicked. The parties, the outfits, the lavish gifts for her kids she never paid for herself. It wasn't about survival. It was about keeping up appearances. She was sinking but too proud to admit it, too lazy to fight for air. She said she was exhausted, overwhelmed, struggling alone. I told her I believed her. I said I'd help, but not with money. I told her I'd call social services in the morning because someone had to step in before things got worse. I expected her to break down. Instead, she exploded, called me a traitor, said I was punishing her for being a single mum, accused me of betraying my own family over something petty. She stormed out, slamming the door. I didn't follow. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I felt peace. I made the call at 8:43 a.m. the next day, not out of anger or to cause a scene. There was no fury left, just a clear certainty that something had to change. I calmly told the woman on the phone that my sister had lost her job over a year ago, had lied to the whole family about it, and was draining everyone's money while partying and posting polished photos as if her life was perfect. I explained how she used her son as leverage, only mentioning him when she needed cash and otherwise barely acknowledging him. I said I wasn't sure if he was in immediate danger, but I knew he wasn't getting the care he needed from someone spiraling behind a facade. The woman didn't sound shocked, just professional. She took my report and said they'd follow up if needed. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. 3 days later, they showed up at Laura's door. I only found out because she erupted in the family group chat like a dam breaking. She said someone had reported her to child services, and it was obviously me. How could I try to take her kid away? How dare I ruin her life? How dare I act like I was better than everyone? Then came the real venom. She wrote that I was jealous, that I'd always envied her success, her life, her kid, her supposed independence. I read it all in silence. The rest of the group chat went quiet. Mum didn't say a word. Dad didn't even log on. Then she started threatening legal action, said she'd file harassment charges, maybe even sue me for slander as if she had the funds or credibility to do it. I didn't respond. Instead, I messaged Mum privately. I just wrote, "She's not employed. Ask her." That was it. I don't know what happened next, but from what I heard later, Mum called Laura that same night. Whatever Laura said didn't go over. Well, because the next day, Mum texted me out of the blue. We didn't know. "This is heavy, I don't know what to say." That was the closest to an apology I'd ever gotten from her, but it didn't fix anything. It just confirmed what I already knew. They were all too happy to ignore the truth as long as someone else paid the price. Laura didn't lose custody, but she got hit with conditions, parenting classes, financial oversight, proof of stability. The caseworker even told her they'd be back for surprise visits. Suddenly, the money stopped flowing. No more gifts, no more quick transfers from Mum and Dad. The well ran dry, and it hit her hard. She started trying to fix her online image, posting long rants about how tough parenting is and how those closest to her had let her down. I ignored it, but others didn't. A few cousins I hadn't talked to in years messaged me privately. They'd lent her money too, thinking she was still employed. One asked me straight up if it was true she'd been jobless all year. I didn't lie. I just said, she's been hiding more than that. A week later, an old family friend who always supported Laura invited me over for dinner. She didn't mention Laura, just said she'd been meaning to catch up, like something had quietly shifted, and she was ready to say it out loud. That caught me off guard. I hadn't asked anyone to pick sides. I'd spent my life being the quiet one, the reliable one, the guy who never caused trouble, and when I finally did, some people started gravitating toward me, not out of loyalty, but because they were tired of pretending. Then Dad reached out. He said he didn't want us to be enemies. He said he missed when we were all close. He said the family was falling apart and blamed me for not talking to them first before going public. I told him the truth. You were only close to the version of me that let everyone walk all over him. That version's gone. He left me on read, and I was fine with that. I started sleeping better, not because everything was resolved, it wasn't. My family was fractured, and my relationships were broken beyond repair. But there was peace in the honesty, even if it came with a cost. No more pretending, no more quiet resentment. Then came the letter. It showed up in my mailbox one Friday afternoon, no return address, just my name and oddly neat handwriting. Inside was a single folded page. It was from an attorney. Laura had filed for temporary transfer of guardianship of her kid to me. It didn't make sense at first. I wasn't the kid's father. I had no custody rights. I wasn't even listed as an emergency contact anywhere, but there it was, in black and white. Laura had filed for temporary guardianship, claiming emotional instability due to family harassment and a need for space to recover. It was her scheme, a trap she didn't think I'd see through. By naming me as temporary guardian, she could claim I agreed to take her son. When I refused, she could spin it into a story about me abandoning a child, which she could sell to others, our parents, her friends, maybe even the caseworker, to keep playing the victim. I didn't panic. I didn't even call her. Instead, I contacted my own lawyer. Yes, I had one. Not because I wanted a custody fight, but because I'd learned the hard way that anything involving Laura needed documentation and witnesses. My lawyer filed a formal rejection along with a notice that no guardianship agreement had ever been made or discussed. We submitted screenshots, timelines, and even old messages showing her manipulation. It was handled in 24 hours. Laura came back to the group chat on Monday. Furious, she said I'd humiliated her, made her look crazy, and that she was just trying to give me a chance to be involved, to fix things. That's when I realized she'd lied not just to our parents, but to herself. She still thought this was about me being bitter. She couldn't grasp that I was done with the charade. A few hours later, I got a call from a woman named Carla. She said she was Laura's former colleague, got my number from a mutual contact, and felt compelled to reach out. I braced for another lecture, but she told me Laura wasn't just fired from her firm. She'd been reported for forging a signature on an internal document. It wasn't a big scandal, so it stayed quiet, but the firm let her resign discreetly to avoid publicity. Laura, Carla said, had been slipping for a while, partying, overspending, hanging with shady people, losing her place, then lying about moving in with a friend when she was sometimes sleeping in her car. I thanked her not because I needed the dirt, but because it filled in the last gaps. Laura wasn't just entitled. She was drowning and grabbing anyone who floated by, even if it meant pulling them under. I didn't reply to her outburst in the group chat. I didn't answer our parents' weak follow-ups asking me to try to forgive. I'd already forgiven them. That's why I wasn't coming back. It started with a birthday party, but not mine. My cousin, Sarah's kid, was turning 4, and the whole extended family was invited, including Laura. I wasn't going to go at first, but Sarah called me directly. She said she'd understand if I didn't want drama there, but it would mean a lot to her, and she wanted me to know Laura was coming too. I didn't reply right away. I thought about it for a bit, then I decided to go, not to make a point, not to prove anything, but just to be somewhere I wasn't the bad guy. I figured I'd just be a quiet presence, eat some cake, and leave. When I arrived, something felt different. People weren't looking at me like they used to, no awkward nods or fake smiles. There was a lot of quiet acknowledgement. A few people came up, hugged me, asked how I was. No one mentioned Laura. She showed up 30 minutes late, loud as ever, as if nothing had changed, wearing a flashy coat I knew she couldn't afford, her kid glued to a tablet with headphones on. She strutted around the room like she owned it, greeting everyone by name, laughing too loudly. She saw me across the room, and her smile faltered for a second. It looked like she might come over, but she didn't. She just stood there, scanning the room like she was plotting something. Then she made a scene. It started small. She was talking to Sarah by the buffet when she suddenly raised her voice, about someone who thinks they're better than their own family. She didn't say my name, but she didn't need to. The room went quiet. Then she turned to me and said straight up, "Why are you even here? Trying to steal another kid or just chasing more attention?" No one laughed. No one backed her up. Sarah stepped in fast. She said she didn't want drama at her kid's party. I told Laura if she had something to say, she could say it outside. Laura scoffed, called everyone fake, and grabbed her kid by the arm. But before she could leave, her kid pulled away and said loud and clear he wanted to stay. In front of everyone, Laura froze. She tried to fake a smile, said she was kidding, but it was too late. The silence in the room had shifted, heavier, more real. Her kid didn't want to go with her, and everyone saw it. She dragged him out anyway, but not before slamming the door so hard it knocked a picture off the wall. People started whispering. A few cousins came over, apologized for her for how they'd treated me, for not seeing things sooner. I didn't need their apologies, but they gave them anyway. Later that week, Sarah called me. Laura had called her crying, begging for money. She said she was being targeted and isolated. Sarah didn't send a dime. She told her to get help. Word spread after that. Some people who used to send Laura money stopped taking her calls. Others just blocked her. She started posting vague quotes online about betrayal, fake friends, and keeping your circle small, as usual. But the mask was off. People saw what was behind it, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's been almost 5 months since everything unraveled. Laura never bounced back the way she hoped. At first, she tried to salvage the narrative. She posted a carefully worded update on social media, full of vague hints about betrayal, personal growth, and cutting out toxicity. A few people gave her the usual sympathy, most didn't engage. I watched from afar as the likes and comments trickled. To nothing, she eventually went quiet there too. Our parents haven't apologized once. They made half-hearted attempts to reach out a voicemail here. A forwarded joke there, like sending me a picture of a dog in sunglasses, would erase 31 years of imbalance. Dad tried to keep it light, like nothing big had happened. Mom asked if I'd noticed the recent spike in grocery prices. These were the people I kept their heat on for. I didn't reply to any of it. It wasn't out of spite anymore, it was just done. That chapter of my life, the role I played, was over. I stopped waiting for them to get it. I stopped hoping they'd see the difference between love and duty. In the middle of all that silence, something strange started happening. I got closer to people I'd only known in passing before. Cousins I hadn't seen in years invited me over just to hang out. A couple of family friends who used to treat me like background noise suddenly asked for my thoughts. Asked about my life not out of pity, but curiosity, real interest. It threw me off at first, but it felt good. I started taking short trips, just weekend getaways out of town. I stopped checking my phone every few minutes. I stopped bracing myself when I got a mail notification. The further I got from the dysfunction, the more I realized how calm the world could be when no one demanded anything from you. I also met someone unexpectedly. We grabbed coffee one day, and I didn't feel like I had to guard myself. She didn't ask about my family or cry. She asked what made me smile lately. For the first time in ages, I didn't feel like I had to prove I wasn't damaged. Then last week, Laura reached out again, a new email with the same tone. She said she was working on herself, wanted a fresh start, but halfway through, it shifted. She wrote about how I'd abandoned her when she needed me most, that I was cold, that I should have handled it like a brother, not a stranger. She ended with, "One day you'll regret cutting everyone off. Family is forever." I stared at those words for a long time. She still didn't get it. None of them did. I didn't cut anyone off. I stopped bleeding for people who didn't see I was wounded. There's a difference. I closed the email and archived it. That same night, I opened the chat with my parents and scrolled back thousands of messages, years of casual dismissal, subtle criticism, constant comparisons to Laura. I read one where Mum wrote, "Laura's our shining star." Another where Dad told me to be more like your sister. I'm not sure what I was looking for, but all I felt was distance. I left the chat and deleted the thread. That's how it ends, not with a fight, a tearful reunion, or a big speech. Just me alone in my apartment, realizing the silence wasn't loneliness, it was relief. And in that quiet, I built something better. Not revenge, not justice, but freedom. An update. Last week, as I was leaving a bookstore, I saw a kid sitting on the curb outside, legs crossed, playing with a worn-out toy car. I recognized him before. He looked up. It was Laura's son. He looked smaller, thinner than I remembered. No jacket despite the chilly breeze. He was alone. I scanned the area for her or anyone else. Nothing. After a moment, I knelt down and asked where his mum was. He shrugged, said she went into the loud place and told him to wait. Later I realized he meant the bar across the street. I didn't know what to do at first. He didn't seem scared, just like this was normal. I called the non-emergency line and reported a child left alone outside a bar. I didn't say who he was. A police car pulled up about 10 minutes later. I watched from my car. 2 officers talked to him gently. Laura eventually came out, stumbling a bit, annoyed mid-excuse. They didn't arrest her, but they didn't let it slide either. The next day I got an email from CPS. They wanted to talk to me, not because I was in trouble, but because the kid had mentioned me as the uncle who made the good food. That stuck with me. I'm meeting with them next week. I don't know what they'll ask. I'm not sure if I want to be involved again, but maybe the kid doesn't need me to fix anything. Maybe he just needs one person who doesn't walk away.